Today we are in conversation with Maarten Lens Fitzgerald. Maarten is a voice evangelist and an experienced entrepreneur based out of Amsterdam. He wrote a book called Voice: The Conversational Revolution. It was written in Dutch, but I'm sure somebody's out there translating it into English right now. He's also founder and director of Project Zilver, that wants to make the lives of older adults better by using voice technology in a non-stigmatizing manner. He's also heading up the Dutch Speech Coalition that really seeks to create better language models for Dutch and then other minority languages. He's doing all those things, sure, but what a lot of you don't know is that he also makes the best tacos in the world. So whenever you get the opportunity, you go to Maarten's house and you let him fire up the barbecue and you'll have an amazing time. So without further ado, let's hop onto the interview. I very much enjoyed this conversation and I know you will too. Thanks for doing this, Maarten. It's good. Finally, I think we talked about doing this 3 years ago.
Is it that long? No, I have short-term memory issues, so it can't be that long.
Well, I think like it's been a very long time since I was on your podcast, and you've stopped doing that.
That one. I have a new series now.
You have a new series one, but
Voice Pioneers.
Voice Pioneers.
I guess you are one, so maybe you should come on at one point.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to getting the invite. What happened to your book? I thought we were going to plug your book.
It's right there because I wanted to have a clean table.
Makes sense. I appreciate that. So you've got a podcast. You've written a book. You had a podcast a while ago that I was on, but tell us, like, what's up? Who are you for the people that don't know you, and what is it really that you do now? Because you're involved in a lot of things. So what's the current status of Maarten Lens Fitzgerald?
Okay, so I'm a voice evangelist. A couple years back, I think over 6 or 7 years ago, I was looking for a new medium to embrace, to bring to the world. And I had that smart speaker, the Alexa, already since the first beta. I was in luck. I clicked yes, give me one in time, and my mother-in-law in Los Angeles brought it over in time, and it was hooked from day one. I used it more than anything every day. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And so what am I going to do? Well, you know what? I'm going to become a voice evangelist because that's always what I do. This is my 5th new medium that I embrace. I started with the web. I did email. I did mobile. I did augmented reality. So one of my core competencies is bringing new media to companies, to the people. Yeah. So with that as a charter, I now help companies explore the opportunities and design new products and services around it.
So that makes sense, but what does that mean? Like, what is it you do? So company, you're on stage.
People hire me to do simple workshops like what is voice, what can I do with it, because they've never heard about it. It's like when you were still making typewriters and you asked somebody to, hey, explain me the interweb, and somebody would come by and do so. So they hire me to explain voice and the new conversational channel opportunity that is emerging like crazy. And once people really get it and feel like, hey, this is something for me, they can also ask me to, hey, can you help me develop a prototype of something that fits our business? So I, on one hand, can help create this strategy as we did once together for companies, or I can actually just lead some cool design sprints, some innovation explorations to create a product or a service or enhance something that's going on. And what is fun now is that more and more I'm also involved in the scaling. So going from pilot to prototype, or sorry, the other way around, from prototype to pilot, and which is really fun because then it's not really about the product anymore. It's about other people embracing it, specifically if it's complex organizations. And so you have very different dynamics than that happen. And in all, if you pull back a little bit, it's all about change and change management. It's about having people embrace something that they don't know, being comfortable with it, and then figuring out how they can use it, and then internally and externally embracing it and using it again and again and again.
So with voice and then the other technologies that you've seen emerge, what do you see? Is it all the same patterns, or is there differences now in the world of conversational AI that are new to email, web, augmented reality?
I don't know yet. I think, yeah, it's like every human starts as a baby, is a teenager, is an annoying 20-year-old or millennial, 30-year-old, sorry. And are you a millennial? No.
I'm a semi-millennial.
Oh, there you go. And so in that sense, every you can probably figure out some stages that are similar, but the characteristics, the character of the person is so important, and therefore it's very different.
So are we ahead or behind on our learning curve?
Well, that's the point. I don't really think you can say that, but you can use mostly the narrative as a way to move on forward, because there's one thing that counts in all situations, in any technology, and that is that you have to use it. You have to start doing it. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen. So if you are a company and you finally embrace the web, you finally have a mobile app that you use, your service people use, I don't know, internally, or you give it to your customers for whatever reason, great. But now you have voice in the conversational opportunity. So you can either ignore it, and maybe your competitor will start using it. Of course, that's a great way to start going, to get the fright of the competitor. On the other hand, you can use it just to automate services and make some extra money by saving money. Or you can distinguish yourself by becoming an expert in conversational services around whatever you do, and be an outlier in that sense.
Do you think there's a lot of misunderstanding that had to get fixed around what voice is? Where initially a lot of people feel like, oh, Google, Alexa. So there's always like the smart speaker, but now I think more and more people are catching up to conversational AI, where it's, internal, external, chat, social media, anywhere there's a conversation, you can automate it.
So actually, going back to your previous question, I think there's something that happens at the point of the emergence of a new channel, of a new medium, maybe even. And that is that there is one language for it. So the web was born. And the web is different than the internet, by the way, for the nerds. Mobile was there. Internet is also FTP and stuff like that. It's the telnet and all the other technologies. The World Wide Web was just one of the many protocols that made the communication through all those servers possible.
Is it a protocol or is it the interface?
Protocol, and there is an interface that
runs on that protocol.
HTTPS or HTTP and HTML. Those are the standards and the protocols that used in HTML made that markup. So anyway, nerd stuff. Back to my point. I know it. Really, I do.
The emergence of technologies and the similar patterns.
So there's one language, one word that for everybody has meaning, and kind of the same meaning. So the web is that's that with that www. That's what we said at the end of the 90s. Mobile. That's smartphone. So you don't use your phone just for calling, but you have these apps, and that went together with social, with Facebook and friends and liking and scrolling and swiping. We don't have that with voice yet. And so also, again, back to your question, so what do I do? For me, what I really love is shaping the emergence of this new channel and trying to help companies and just in general people figure out how can we make sure that it goes well. And what does that mean?
Yeah.
And on one hand, that's companies doing it well, making sure that they start off right, that it really fits in the way they are working. And so that means that don't go all out in the beginning if you're not really able to, or if people love it internally, you can probably do a running start. And I think the emergence of a new channel is something very delicate. And right now it's kind of scary in a way, because we are living, or we are seeing that this channel is being emerged in the reddest ocean ever. And that means that Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook, all the large tech platforms who are now, individually sometimes more powerful than a country, are creating these platforms, these conversational channels, for their own good. They don't look at the societal good, the good for you and me in other sense, in a non-commercial sense. They don't work together to create standards. Remember HTML? That was great. That made sure that Netscape and Microsoft's browser, Internet Explorer, worked together or worked on the same page. And so we don't have, I think, and that's also why I'm sometimes work a little hard even, is we don't have the right setting yet for a good emergence.
Yeah.
And what helps is to have one language. And I think that's just a recent insight that I have, is that we need to start having one language overall.
Yeah, and then the point, I guess, with standards is you cannot just say these are the standards. They need to emerge through interaction with all stakeholders in the industry, and then slowly the narrative emerges.
It's like a reef.
Yeah,
sand, peace, and whatever else happens on a reef to grow.
Yeah, so you can have a vision, and you can articulate that vision, and maybe get some support around that vision, but you cannot dictate.
You cannot dictate, and you have to compromise a lot.
And we as people cannot be dependent or put our faith in the hands of these virtual governments.
Well, the thing is, they have different functions, so we can't even expect it from them. We as people, mere simple people without power, of course. Hi, Hans. And I find that very interesting. And if you look at the internet, and that inspired me to have this belief and this hope, maybe we can do something. There at the beginning, and I'm talking around the 80s, you had like for instance, email. Email was like over 20 very different systems. Yeah. But somehow they figured out how to create SMTP, one of the email standards. And a buddy of mine, by chance, was very involved in that. He actually wrote the MIME standard, which you still use for your attachments in your email. And so I asked him, like, how did that happen? What was it? And he said, compromise. And imagine, that's what I do at least, like a big room with the Googles and the Amazons, but lots of other smart people who have, who know how it works, have an opinion of how it should work, but being able to work together for a greater good. I know. I sound a little bit off sometimes. No, don't do that. No, don't go there. No. Maybe you should explain it to people, but
Google it.
Yeah, polderen. Yes.
Polderen, Dutch word for reaching consensus. I guess. You always say, I've heard you talk about these blue and red oceans before. I guess I've tested it with other people. I don't know what it means.
I'm so sorry.
No. So please tell me real quick.
Basically a dissonant of the blue ocean theory. And blue ocean theory basically is what we've been seeing the last 30 years with these new developing technologies, is that maybe you are in luck and find something where you have the possibility to do everything to create that new world. Maybe augmented reality is a good example for that. And literally that's a new world. People are talking about it a lot these days, the metaverse.
We're going to talk about that in a bit.
We will. But basically imagine that you're a company, you come up with, for instance, social media and Facebook. I think that was in the beginning pretty blue ocean, as in there weren't a lot of players, and the early players, one of them just figured out how to do it right. Did some smart, almost aggressive moves in the beginning to win, and now they got the whole market. Yeah. And that's what can happen with a blue ocean, is that everybody who enters that market or that new market has a fair game or a fair chance. In a red ocean, everything is decided.
Oh, I thought in the red ocean, like beasts get slaughtered, and then you got...
that's like the floor is lava. No, sorry, Hans. No,
that's kind of
no. My point there again is that everything is decided, and very powerful beings are already in this world. And so, if say you and I right now want to start a general voice assistant, we have a smart idea. We do not have the resources to get a global market with that. And if we have truly something amazing, we'll be bought up for way too much money in a very early stage, which personally will make us happy, and which will shore up the position of one of those players that bought us. Yeah. And so therefore there is no real, natural market effects anymore.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then it's so with Schumpeter, with creative destruction, where you'd have the innovation that brings down the monopolies, that whole principle doesn't exist anymore because they're too powerful. So you're pretty much saying split them up. And your whole language is pretty activistic. So I was thinking, you call yourself an evangelist, but are you a voice activist almost?
Or pundit, maybe. I don't know. No, and I think so. This is, I mean, this is a belief, and somehow this comes out right now. So hey, we got it out of the way. Might be good. We might have lost some listeners or viewers. But what I do in my work, so the stuff people really pay me for, is make sure that whatever is done is, for instance, inclusive. So I have, for instance, an initiative called Project Zilver, where I work with Google and with the Dutch AARP called ONBO, the Older Adult Organization, to explore how can we use voice technology to make the lives of older adults better. Mm-hmm. And what we found through research is that, for instance, when people are alone, they kind of like having a smart speaker to talk to. And it's actually pretty handy to do all kinds of stuff that normally you, as a older adult who is not really maybe a technology aficionado, mm-hmm. you kind of skip. Yeah. Because voice is universal, is actually the most inclusive channel or medium ever. So by making sure that they get the notion of, hey, maybe a smart speaker is something for me, you give them a one up.
Yes, it might be perceived as a gadget, where actually no, it's dependent on something most fundamental and old language and speaking.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And it gets a whole group of people into the technology game, if that is a game, but it gets them on par with what you and I do every day with our little watches and I don't know what else.
Yeah. So Project Zilver is one. So Google's involved with that, with older adults.
Yeah. And what's interesting there when we started is that they had no idea about this user group. The people here in Holland, at least, in the Google Tower. And it was so fun for me as well to learn who are older adults. And then you hear me say, not elderly, but older adults. Yeah, because like you and I, they're adults. They're just older. And it's a very important nuance. Because if I used to think older means, you're almost dead. You can't do shit. You kind of wait till it's over. And that's so not the case because they're you and I. And actually, just like millennials, you can't put them in one word because they're everybody. Yeah. And with some smart tweaks, for instance, you can make your product really work well, even work better. For instance, not making a website about the product that moves a lot, but use some larger letters and actually have a print button because they like to print. Maybe we don't.
It becomes very simple. So what are some of the things for voice that are so unique, different when you use for older adults, right? So
I think just in general, the fact that you can talk to complex services, make an appointment, put in a reminder.
So it's added to something they're already doing to make that easier rather than having new stuff for them.
Exactly. And that I think is because normally they would skip all that. Yeah. Because they didn't know how it was. I don't want to pinch for that or swipe for that. That's and then you have an update, and a smart speaker is so simple. And again, we did the research, and so we know that people are actually more happy when they have a smart speaker in home. So that was one of the reasons why we were able to arrange for 10,000 speakers, over €500,000 worth of goods, to be given away by the ONBO. To older adults at the beginning of COVID, because we wanted to do something. Specifically, the older adults had some issues with loneliness and not being able to.
Are these smart speakers with a screen as well, or just the minis?
They were just the simple minis that you see back here.
Yeah, because I'd be very keen to learn like how the screen would actually make things easier there as well.
Could be
second round of giveaways.
Yeah, I'll talk to him. Yeah, but anyway, so that's one of the ways so how I try to help the channel of voice or the medium of voice emerge well. Another thing that I do is the Dutch Voice Coalition, or in good Dutch, de Nederlandstalige Spraakcoalitie. And the linguists in the founding group helped me formulate this. And this is the idea that people in America, I think, don't really realize. But if you look, for instance, at the large platforms, local languages are not served well because there's millions of Americans, but there's not that many Dutch people. And actually, if you look at the Dutch language group, there's lots of subgroups that really talk different. But if you have maybe 2 engineers that every month have maybe 2 sprint weeks on the Dutch language Google Assistant platform, then you know that you're not going to have an optimum experience. And maybe if you look at it even differently, maybe when voice is such an important, or language is so cultural, is so foundational for a community, for a country, should a large external or company or platform actually have a stake in it? Shouldn't you, as the national person in that country or the government, actually control it? So what we're working there, what we're trying to do is to make people aware that voice is a foundational technology, or speech technology, and that it should be sovereign, so that we Dutch people, we the people should actually control it, not others, or we actually are more
we
aware
the
of
Dutch
it.
Or we the speakers of Dutch?
That's Flanders, and anyway, there should be a conversation, and you can go very deep.
Yeah, because there's lots of people living in Canada. That,
Suriname, for instance.
Suriname
is a great example. And but no, everybody, and we all who speak that should have an active voice in managing that. It should be open. So whatever the technology is, it shouldn't be too proprietary, because again, everybody should be able to use it, and also the organization should be open. It should be trustworthy. For instance, the models that are used, the data to create the models, and should be harvested in a smart and privacy honoring way, meaning that you don't hear yourself talk. Or anyway, the wrong data is not used. It should be non-biased or de-biased, et cetera. And so all these values we try to really honor and make sure that with the emergence of that new channel, specifically here in Holland, we ensure that it goes well, and that the government, for instance, is going to take an active role.
And are you focusing this then entirely now on the Netherlands, or are you building frameworks that can also be used for people who want to do Gaelic or Catalan? Or
my personal preference is as what you say, but that's too much for now.
Yeah.
And initially I had that thought, because I'm bicultural, bilingual, American and Dutch. Thanks to my
passport.
No, but my wife is American, so and I did live there for a while. But what I again find so interesting is nobody, unless you're in this position, thinks about that. And so it is very logical, for instance, for Belgium to do the same. Because there's only Google Assistant with little support. There's no Alexa. For instance, if you have Alexa in your country, there's going to be a lot of mass media campaigns promoting that channel, meaning that a lot of more business will will start to use conversational means, whatever way, that you guys probably also can use. And so there's a different level of adoption when per country.
Yeah.
And I think in Holland right now, just by focusing there, we can create the model, the framework on how to deal with the situation of these powerful companies, coming or being there or arriving, and how should we welcome them as the native Indians, basically. And should we
welcome to the Netherlands?
Yeah, and if you want to use our voice technology, great. We actually have some open models ourselves, and under this agreement, you could use them.
Yeah. So because you feel that Dutch in the Netherlands is not respected enough by these giants to make it important, like it's not important enough, so they don't care enough.
There's no business case.
So so we want to have a sovereign project in a way, and so we want to go against them in a way, or make it, or
no, it's not against them. It's how do you say it? It's like a building outside there, the outside of here, or that we can see. It's like it's just there. I mean, okay, I'm fine, and it has and it doesn't care about me. It doesn't have to. But I care about myself, so I arrange for the things that I want to, and I find important. And so on a national level, that's what we're doing.
And so because you're dealing with a small population already in the Netherlands, but then even within the Netherlands, we have all these different dialects. So you want to be inclusive in language ability. Really, how to say how well people speak and use language, and you want to be inclusive, I guess, in all the different dialects that are out there. So then,
Oh, I have a very solutionistic vision here. That's way far out before to come into realization, and that is, and it's based on my early internet experience. Because I remember the first disk array coming into the country, a company I was working at, the web company back in the mid '90s, and a disk array is a machine where you have all these disks. You can take one out, you can hot swap. That was the cool thing that we had back then. So what I envision is an open set of models and data with some smart protocols, legal and otherwise, where you can, I'm a insurer. I want to work on my customer service in the south of Holland. There's mostly this dialect and that dialect, and I'll get the insurer part of that dialect and the of those things, and then you have that model, and I use that. I also enrich it and put something back, and they're together as a country. You manage the public data that you need to create at least a good basic level of service. So a solutionistic vision, because this is just something I thought up, and very visual as well. But like the other day, with the Dutch AI Coalition, which is an initiative to use more AI within the country and be more competitive outside of Holland as well, people were creating the same vision when we were talking about voice and speech technologies. So I think it's going to be there. But again, what I find so interesting, and that's a recent insight I have, is we do not have one language yet for voice.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, something that you are experiencing. Like the web, like mobile, we're so not there yet. It's not as visible. There's no social thing on top of it that people use all the time, like mobile had.
Yeah, there's like... I think there's like, what's the Uber or the Airbnb of voice? Like, what's one company that's going to make it like, okay, this is very clear. This is a channel, but I guess voice in and of itself. When you say voice, some people think of a smart speakers, others think about an interface, others think about a piece of technology, others think about research.
Yesterday, the judicial department of the government, the legal people. And they're like, they only were talking about harvesting and anyway, legal speech technology use. That's for them voice. And that was, I'm like, oh God, yeah, that's true.
I mean, also we, maybe we were even on that call once with different project, but we were talking to a company and we're like, are you doing voice? And the security department said, yeah, we're doing voice, because they regarded all the Zoom calls and Microsoft Team calls to
Cisco voice services. Yeah, it's my phone. Right?
Yeah.
You do that. You have a switchboard.
So we need to have a common language. So you're working towards standards. You're working toward kind of what we're doing in design, right?
Exactly.
What are the job titles? What are the workflows?
I think that's why we like each other, because we see the same movements, and we see the importance of some things that lack, but I think it's about enabling the right movements, asking the right questions, and giving some key things like standards to move things forward.
Is that you had a company before in augmented reality a while ago, and you were way too early. I guess there's like the everybody was then speaking about augmented reality, didn't really work out. Now it's back with the with the metaverse. Do you think the lack of standards and the lack of shared narratives is some of the, was one of the reasons for that market not succeeding the first time?
Well, no, Layer, we're talking about Layer, Layar. This was a startup that I had, I think, 12 years ago, which was the first, for the people at home, the first global augmented reality platform. We had 44 million app installs. We were pre-installed on the Samsung Galaxy phones globally, or countries could opt in to have it just pre-installed. So we were marketed for free, and we provided a platform for companies to create layers like web pages, and so they can create AR. This company, looking back, was pure vision based. This is the vision I was talking earlier about. Like, I really think it should be like that. But and in the Layer case, we actually were able to raise some money, almost 20 million, I believe. I can't remember exactly how much in euros or dollars, but the market was so not ready. They just loved the story, and back then Google was not mobile yet. So we were, with all the attention and press and all this usage. Well, actually, it was only downloads because people weren't doing it. They did it once, but not again. But nobody talked MAUs yet, monthly active users. That wasn't a thing yet. So we thought, we're going to be the new Google if we do this right. We're going to control we're going to have the metaverse or the augmented reality be the new, eighth mass medium. There's a count somewhere.
Someone's keeping track.
No, and they said, yes, maybe that person who did that. Tommy, his name is. Anyway, back then I was young and very inexperienced, and by chance we stumbled upon this. This wasn't no intent, no design whatsoever. Just, hey, this works.
This be cool. Yeah.
This is cool. Oh, and people like it. Okay, and so slowly we were able to blow it up in the right way. And we actually believed it. And we like the last year, we actually were making a positive ROI for the first time. But now I forgot your initial questions. Telling my love, of course, my first love.
If it was like the lack of standards and kind of how you're shaping the emerging technology now, if that was something that was maybe missing then. But it seems like the way you describe it now is that if even mobile was the emerging technology, you were already doing something on top of mobile. So
actually, looking back, we were showing how good smartphones were in technology-wise. So that's why the operators and the manufacturers like Samsung embraced us. Mm-hmm. And we kept the chips warm and were a reason to sell smartphones over feature phones. That was more tactical for the industry.
Yeah, you hinted at
but it wasn't. It wasn't a lack of standards. It was the fact that maybe it's like a volcano. Yeah, sometimes they explode and sometimes they don't. You have no clue why. And there's several emergence stories. For instance, I believe it was the light bulb has been invented over 100 times, but Edison got the story and the patent. Or there was fiber in Paris already in the 1880s or something like that. And so by chance we saw something. By chance, a lot of people liked the story, and we had some good technology as well. But it wasn't enough for the people to reach into their pocket and pick out their phone and look all the time for houses for sale or whatever experience they'd like that we provided or that other people provided on the platform. And so there was stuff lacking. Mm-hmm. And what it was, we don't know because it's still not off the ground. I mean, remember Magic Leap? They had 20 billion as an investment.
They're gone. Yeah.
And I hear from my ex-employees who have had several startups. One of them, for instance, just sold to Niantic with his AR startup. So he's happy now. But and he tells me, for instance, that everybody's working on AR, like half of Facebook or more, et cetera, et cetera. And we see it and we hear it. And Apple's doing something with glasses. And Facebook just launched their camera glasses the other month. But still, nothing is really out. So it's still not more than what I said 10 years ago, in a way. It's a solutionistic vision, not based on a problem, not based on user proof, because when you and I use it daily, that's when it's there. So going back to voice, I think that's our challenge, is how do we do it? And like the narrative with we need the Uber for this, or we need the Instagram for this. Yeah, but on the other hand, we never saw Uber or Instagram coming. So that's all hindsight. Hindsight is 20/20. Yeah. And if we look backwards to the future, we won't see anything. So that's why I like with my initiatives for the companies I help is really work values-based and keep it small on a national level, but also on your company level. So where can voice or voice technologies benefit? How does it fit in your development cycle of a company? And then work from there.
Yeah. Yeah, because people always ask me, like, what are the best use cases that you know and that you see? And they're all very practical. They're all very boring. Nobody wants to hear about them, but they're the ones that are successful. And that's kind of how you see voice slowly getting probably like a bigger position in these enterprises. Yeah. Where it's like, you can use voice in your call center. Doesn't mean it's going to be handling 80% of the conversations. It's just going to say, hello, what's your question? I'll find you the right agents.
My favorite one is, I think it's an insurer who has, when you can't pay your bills, you can make an agreement to pay it in installments. People rather do that with a bot than with a human because they're embarrassed. I love it. And it's like almost a negative. Yeah.
There's quite a few interesting and fun use cases out there that are, I guess, shaping the world. And on one hand, you sort of see, I guess, the advancements in technology that's just going to make it easier and better.
Mm-hmm.
You see companies warming up to it and trying to understand it. And at one point, there's going to be like the one big game changer looking back, where it's like, that was it when they saved the patient's life by having a voice in the operating room. Or
something's going to happen that we'll look back at, and that was it, we'll say. A good one that I like as an example is Web 2.0. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tim O'Reilly, publisher at that time, and he had a simple slide where he put all the terms that people were talking about together, tagging and some other stuff, and he put a circle around it and said Web 2.0. And that meme and it wasn't as hard as a technology as the internet in general or web or mobile.
Something's happening here.
But that created the one verb, the one word that people could use and for several years, and raised lots of money with, and lots of companies were able to use it to do what they wanted to do.
Reminds me a little bit of what Seth Godin said. Of like, the Beatles did not invent crazy teenagers, right? The Harley Davidson did not create angry men looking for, freedom. It's like these groups are already out there, and sometimes it just takes someone to stand in front of that group and show leadership.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what Tim O'Reilly did with Web 2.0.
Yeah.
Everybody's like in their own little project trying to innovate. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you've got a leader that can frame it and that can say...
or just somebody that frames it. It doesn't even have to be a leader. He wasn't a leader.
I think then another leader needs to run with it, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. Good question.
So are we talking voice 1.0 or talking Web 3.0?
I think we're talking dimension 5. There's going to be a new word that we do not have right now, or maybe are using all the time. That will be it. And I love that idea. I love that we don't know, and I think like a Zen Buddhist, just having an empty mind, looking at it, seeing what's in front of it, be it practical in your service center or whatever, that's what it's going to be. And at some point, we're like, that is a table where everything is sitting on, because it's the table probably.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to hopefully see that at one point.
Yeah, that's what's feeding this for you, I guess, knowing that you're a part of it, part of the adventure, and you will discover what it is together with other people.
I had the same thing with augmented reality. I was really helping the first events, and I remember when we got the Intel investment in the company, I'm like, yes, this enables us. This is Intel, that's infrastructure, IT infrastructure company or money, and we want to become AR infrastructure. I want to create the DNS of AR, and we never did. And I can't program, but I love being at the center of things and being part of it, and that drives me.
So because afterwards, I want to talk a little bit about, what does it take for these technology to be adopted? How does everything work together? Mm-hmm. I've been working on the integral perspective on conversational AI.
Yeah.
You've been already thinking about that and actually been using it with some of your clients.
Yeah.
Integral perspective. Should we talk about Ken Wilber a little bit, or should we not?
We could. Yeah, love it.
Let's keep it simple in a way. It's like a lot of times you find yourself in arguments. The way we look at it from in conversational AI, engineer says this, the designer says that, the manager says that, and they all have opposing perspectives. But what if we assume they're all right and everybody holds a piece of the truth?
Can I do a little trick with you?
You can do a little trick here.
I'm going to use your pen.
Yes. Go for it.
And for me, it's what you just described is this. What do you see?
I will say a 9.
And I see a 6, and we're both right.
Yes.
This to me is the essence. But if you put it in the middle, and to me,
I'll take it. No, and I really like that. And what Ken Wilber did from the integral theory was saying everything in the world is like you have individuals and you have the collective, and the individual has an interior world, so these are your thoughts and your emotions, and you have an exterior world, and this is your behavior. It's how you speak and how you act. And then you've got your collective interior is like the shared history and the shared culture that a society might have. And Then there's the exterior of the collective, which are, your systems in the government and how we are organized. And everything that takes place in the world at any given moment sits in all four quadrants, and you can have these different perspectives. And when I was looking at conversational AI, because I know, like, for me, it was like, I know how to create a good conversational experience. You follow the workflow, you get a piece of technology, off you go.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that simple. And I was like, well, why is that? And it's like, oh, wait, they're thinking this, they're thinking that. Everybody is right. And I caught myself echoing a lot of integral theory. So then I started applying that to the world of conversational AI. And I dumbed it down a little bit. I said, we're looking at mindset, skill set, culture, and systems for these organizations. Like, so the way to look at it now is that, if you're analyzing anything in an organization, the more conversations you have, the better they should be in terms of user experience, in terms of volume, in terms of adoption of a voice technology. And then you can sort of see, where you are in that maturity model. And wherever you are is a combination of mindset, skill set, culture, and systems. How are you organized? How are the people feeling and operating within your organization? And they all have different stages of maturity, and they all need to be in balance, because a lot of times you see the project fail when we're over-invested in technology or in corporate governance, and we don't have the skill set to operate in that environment, and therefore the project kind of tanks. And what was interesting between us, because after Layer you found a company called Teamly. So when we first started chatting about the integral, you're like, oh, I've been working on this. I've been thinking about this. Can we share a little bit about what Teamly did and how that now ties into this new...
Yeah. I think through Teamly, I understood change, and that was also the intent of the company. In a way, it was me and the Layer founder, Raimo, who I knew for a little while, trying to figure out what the hell happened with Layer. That was so quick. But on the other hand, we knew, like, what if we can design a system? Like, imagine a surfer standing on the beach. He or she reads the waves and knows when to jump in. And that is dependent on the weather, the waves, who you are, how fit you are, the board, lots of other things. All those four quadrants, in a way. We didn't know that back then when we had this vision. And so we set out to create a way to figure out, how to re-change and know where you are and what to do at what time. And by chance, we figured out that personality types you can fit personality types at stages of change. And so it's not specifically integral or anything, but very close to it. And so what I learned there is basically that everything is change, and it's very complex material. The integral angle I like a lot because it encompasses all these different views in one view. Integral. This is the dumb version. Sorry, people at home. But it is that. And what I so often encounter is that people in reality, in the real world, just, 1 and 1 is 2. They don't acknowledge the 6-9 principle and all those other things that are in that theory. And I really stay away from religiously following stuff. But in general, it's such a great way to understand where am I now as a company on several levels. Like a dashboard almost. Where do I want to go, and what should I do to move on? And with Teamly, this is exactly what we learned on an individual level, on a team level, on an organizational level, on a societal level. We didn't create a business for that, but and literally, when I started out in voice, for me, it was a function of that. Like, okay, what am I good at? I'm good at being an evangelist. That's why I chose that word. And what am I good at? Spotting new big movements. Okay, let's embrace that. And what do? I bring things together. I explain things well. I help people move, or organizations move, and that's what I do.
So for us, what we see now is, if you start out in voice, you initially want to have a culture in which it's very safe to fail, where people have the freedom to hack something together and they feel supported by their management. Whereas if you're doing this at scale, you want to be, and have conversational mindset in the boardroom. Everybody wants to be more reserved and more risk averse in the operation. You want to have more advanced skills and more advanced technology. So every phase of the maturity kind of.
And I think as a young industry, that you and I try to surf. I think it's so important for the companies to have a map or a prediction. What will happen next? They need that. I mean, I put it in my book as well. And it's kind of, if you kind of read through the lines, it's very, those steps are in there. I think Raza has a great, very developer focus, but they also have their stages. And I think Integral or an approach like that really helps people understand, how can I understand what's going to happen, and maybe how can I control the use, the integration of this new opportunity of the conversational channel into my company. And I think it's maybe even this safety on a board level and control is the key, but that's what I'm thinking up now.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's where it will end up in a way. It's kind of like we do an assessment of where you are today, where do you want to go, how do we close the gap. That gives you a board or a roadmap, and then you can sort of present, up the chain of commands. It's like all these things are going to be covered, because we're also thinking about how people in the operation feel and how they perceive the project.
Yeah. And just imagine, I mean, you have your 4 quadrants, so you can score organization on the score quadrants. So they're good in quadrant 1, they're weak in quadrant 2. We know that to turn up quadrant 2, you need to do create safety, I don't know, or put more pressure on them and put hard targets if it's a people thing, etc. And so you have a formula, a recipe basically for a roadmap of conversational integration. And that's what I like about the system of Integral, and there's various like that. But it's actually not that hard. That's the funny thing.
Everybody that ventures out needs a roadmap. I guess that's kind of, and that's what it is. And having, people guide you. It's like, this is where you are. This is where your competitors are. Yeah. This is where they say they are, but this is where they actually are. And this is how you get where you want to be. Yeah. And it's still not going to be easy, but these are the steps that we can now follow that we know have worked for others.
Maybe it's what we need ourselves and give to others. Boom.
Boom.
So no, but seriously. So just before today, I was helping as a CEO, a young, or not a young founder, but experienced founder with a very potentially large startup. And I'm the coach, kind of. Yeah. But if I was in his shoes, I would not know what to do. I would need a model, a growth model, a roadmap. And so, I'm giving him what I'm lacking myself, but I could do it because I'm outside of the organization as well.
Yeah, that is the value of the outsider. I think that's very underestimated. It's like, having people, we would have management coaches here and they would come in only once a quarter. Yeah. You just present, what have you been up to this quarter? And they're just fresh eyes, and then you learn what doesn't make sense. Yeah. And you're just stuck in the trenches on a daily basis. You have no idea. One of the things that when we worked on a client together on a strategy thing, I liked also how you, and this has to do with culture. Mm-hmm. How successful have you been at, your first mobile apps, and how successful have you been at these and that? So what is the culture within your organization, and what's the history of that culture, and how does that?
Those are fun questions to ask.
Yeah, because immediately if you ask people like, how are you doing on this voice project? How successful are you? Everybody's very positive and in good spirits. Then you ask about how good were you at mobile? Weren't too good at it. And all of a sudden, you already see the problem. So we see overconfident people that actually don't have the best track record.
Don't have memory. Yeah. I think that's so interesting. Yeah, and you see that all over. If you look at politics, how did we deal with the Spanish flu? Lots of people were against the mouth thingies and stuff like that. Hey, it's happening again. Is it a surprise? Hopefully not, actually, for the people in control. But in that sense, everything by asking some smart questions, you can bring a lot from your own history to the table to make you better right now. I'm happy that we are having a very lighthearted conversation about conversation design and the industry. Man, I don't know what happened today. But,
is there anything else we should be talking about?
Why are you making this podcast? I was wondering on the bike over.
Yeah, I love that question. I guess, for me, I'd like to chat. I was always talking to people, and I would have these conversations where it's like, we should have recorded this. Right. Why didn't we not record this? Or I forgot about it. It's like maybe I should just do this. So for me, it's a way to learn and to sort of help me shape my own ideas. which I like about it. And I mean, it's also good, to just share the stories. There's a lot of knowledge that people have that is not really getting out there. So I feel there's companies that are like doing very much the marketing and pushing their marketing agenda.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not too interesting to listen to. Then there's some that are very, like just asking question interviews. So I was like, no, I just want to have conversations.
Right.
So it's like conversations with Amsterdam. It's just sometimes I'm kind of quiet and asking questions. Sometimes I'm talking a lot myself.
Yeah.
I'm just enjoying it. I guess that's my
Cool.
the main reason, and we'll see if it gets if it finds an audience and what that audience is and how they perceive it and if they want more of it. We'll see. It's I guess it's fun doing it.
Okay.
Are you enjoying it?
I am definitely enjoying it.
How do you think I'm doing it?
You're good, but yeah, we know each other, so yeah, no. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here if you sucked.
I was talking to my producer not too long ago, and I asked her, "It's like, what can I do better?" And she's like, "You need to be more like call people out on bullshit and stuff."
Oh, nice.
So it's like, that's a good one because I listen, and what I would do is I would interrupt a lot. Instead of like, I also think that's, but it's like, let people finish their thing entirely. And then just so that I did that earlier, I took a few notes. I was like, I want to come back to that point.
What is my bullshit? Yeah,
tell me. I didn't call you back on
man.
Call you on bullshit. No, the oceans, where it's like, oceans. So what I would have done previously was be like, what's that with the oceans? Now I just let you talk.
Right.
Because I kind of follow you and then I go back.
I think it's a very important, I'm happy you did that because I tend to easily pick up something somewhere and use it as a metaphor or as an example when people have no clue. And as a roller coaster, I just roll on and I kind of am an ineffective communicator because I'm so enthusiastic and people don't want to stop me, when as they should say, hey, wait a minute, what do you mean? Yeah. And then I'll interrupt or wait, but I mean, that's fine. And I think that's, I'm very happy with that. Let me put it that way, because that's where I personally can be better. And I think that's maybe something we can both learn. And what I'm trying to figure out, for instance, I know that I will not create that language for voice that will bring, voice technology at the large table of the UN or the World Economic Forum. I don't know where, but so it's an acknowledged thing that people, that's so important that everybody wants a stake in it. Yeah. Because right now it's scattered all over the place by people here on top of Amsterdam buildings and others in Israel or Germany or wherever. But to get there, and that's what I find really interesting, and is that we need to create something powerful, like a pop band. My wife is into the Korean thing, BTS. BTS. Yeah. And what is so interesting is they have a machine, and of course this is the result of 40 years of pop group production abilities and specialization, and they optimized it in Korea, I believe, now with billions of views all the time. And right now there is a new song out together with this British band, and I don't know what, but people talk about it, and it creates a movement. They went to the UN, brought by the Korean president, and they help young people understand that there is a UN. And that's why the president brought him over, because they have millions of people that follow him and listen to him. And so for voice, what can we tactically do? Who can we smartly invite to become part of this movement? Because maybe it is a movement, and not, you with your long hair, me with my nice glasses.
We're not important enough?
Well, maybe it's not us. Maybe it's something else. But the thing is, like if we want to play it right for our companies, our loves, our initiatives.
James Bond needs to talk to a smart speaker in the next movie.
That would work. But, like Billie Eilish has a smart speaker with Amazon in the US, so that's, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. So those are steps.
A remake of Knight Rider.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I don't know what, but I love thinking about that. And so how can we, step out of ourselves, our own little egos, and figure out what are the smart things to do apart from having mugs with your logo and cool material like this.
Is that the hero's journey almost of Maarten Lens Fitzgerald, where you used to be the CEO and the founder raising millions and millions for Layer, and
I was
now
never
you're
CEO.
you're becoming the spin doctor behind the scenes for the next generation and giving them the stage and helping shape the narrative.
Well, I was once called the village elder in Layer when I was, as in like there was a new CEO, very good, and I helped maintain the culture and stuff like that. So I like that role. So yeah, I do like. I mean, I love the stage, so don't deny me that. That's my heroine. But no, but it's something I'd like to learn. Let me put it that way. Everything like Layer was a total accident. Project Zilver has a lot of pull, kind of accidental. I just thought, let's do this. And it wasn't a ploy that I came up with.
I remember that first thing where you said it was like, yeah, whatever. And then all of a sudden it's a thing. Like
yeah, exactly. And it's maybe my learning point as well is to recognize those things and make it big. So now for my personal mission is to how can I really enable the brand value of Project Zilver? How can I enable the pull factor of the coalition, the voice coalition, and create a global movement? Because I think it has a place. Because we are living in a society where never before has so much data been collected. And you can have a judgment about it. It's just the case. So how do we deal with that? And maybe voice is the catalyst to come up with a new constellation where everybody kind of is more in balance and does the right things instead of just being extractive. And I like to figure out how to do that better.
Yeah, it's and then like how do you scale the accident? I'm thinking of what's the guy's name of Y Combinator who wrote the famous blog post of do things that don't scale?
Yeah. Graham, I think, or
yeah,
Paul
Graham.
Yeah,
it's like figuring it out, being part of it, just keeping your distance so you observe that you're part of it, and then identifying the thing that might be the catalyst, and then also accepting that you're going to be wrong 20 times probably.
Yeah, if I look back at Layer was kind of the result, or no, it was something that came up because I had Mobile Monday, which was an event organization around mobile with the founders of Layer and some other people. And what we did there is we just got the people that we loved on stage. We never did events. We managed to get some money, so it was free for everybody. We created a movement and a community. And really vision and enthusiasm based, not commercial, not transactional, nothing like that. And out of that, we got to know lots of people, created a worldwide network of people that we got to know a lot of mobile people. And that's why we were able to see very early on the AR opportunity and also formulate some smart tactics like getting the pre-install with Samsung. That helped us a lot. And so when I started out in voice, my strategy was also, I'm just going to start, you know, and I'll start an event series, I'll start a newsletter or start a podcast, and I'll jump in and I'll talk in all the conferences about it. And at some point, something will happen that'll be bigger than all of the little actions together. Yeah. And maybe Project Zilver and the Voice Coalition is that.
Thank you for doing this, sir. Where can people find you?
www.lens-fitzgerald.com.
Twitter, Dutch Cowboy.
Dutch Cowboy on Twitter. I'm pretty active on there and very reachable.
And the book is in Dutch only?
It's only in Dutch, yes. So you have to speak Dutch. Voicebook.nl for the people that want to get it. It's also in audio. Yes, I read it.
You read it?
Out loud in a very toilet-sized, technology-rich box because the mics were very good.
Is it on Audible or what?
Audible, yeah. I think so. I don't know. The publisher does that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But then in Dutch as well. You could just translate it on the go, right?
I had some actually very enthusiastic person translate it automatically using one of the translation services. But
it's not good enough.
I'm just not ready to do it. Let me put it that way. And it's kind of old already, and it has Dutch cases. You know, who knows KLM or Talpa? And
people know KLM.
No, sorry, no, not KLM. It's not even in there. Talpa or Albert Heijn.
Didn't KLM kill the whole voice thing? Or
exactly,
they
did. They had other issues after COVID. Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Thanks so much. I'll do a high five here.
Cool.
We'll do this again sometime.
Yes.
Hey there, you made it to the end. Congratulations. I really appreciate that. I know you're busy, so you've listened to a full episode, so congrats on you. Great job. So now what should we talk about? No, I'm just kidding. First of all, thanks. Second of all, if you want to learn more about Conversation Design Institute, I highly recommend that you go to the website conversationdesigninstitute.com, and there you can sign up for a free account and start your learning journey. So you can learn about, AI training, conversation design, conversational copywriting. There's lots of technology courses. So now that we've gathered these technology agnostic skills, what are you going to do next? Are you going to learn about Allen App, Qbox, Rasa, Cognigy? We have all these different technology courses as well. So there's a whole portfolio. So I recommend, going there, creating a free account, watching a few videos. If that's enough for you, great. If you want more, you can just enroll and become a certified professional. These courses are really good if you are, an individual designer, writer that wants to learn about conversational AI. But if you're an enterprise and you're looking to scale up your team, lots of enterprises onboard their entire team to these courses to scale them up quickly. And it's also an option to add extra workshops with that and extra coaching sessions, so you quickly get that enterprise team where you want it to be. If that's a little too much, maybe there's also papers you can download on the website, maybe learn a bit about how we've helped Vodafone skill up 100 people in different countries, in different languages, using different technologies, creating the Toby chatbot in apps, on websites, in voice, all these types of things. So you can learn about that too. The best way to stay in touch, follow the podcast. You'll hear all the latest updates. Say hello on Twitter. HVDAM is my handle. Stands for Hans van Dam, obviously. Or just type in my name on LinkedIn. I post regularly. I like to engage with people there. So feel free to do that. So again, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Happy to meet again for the next one.